that 2/3 of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women?
Please return to your seat. Hi. I'm Ceci.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So your claim is that women will be happier at home. I think you're conflating, though, happiness with importance, because I get what you're saying, where a woman can write a book and have kids, but the kids are always going to make her happier. But I think it just means that kids are always going to be more important, not necessarily make you happier. But also piggybacking on Naima, we don't live in an economy where people typically can have a one-income household,
Right.
whether it be the mom or dad that stays home. And so I think, and you keep bringing up the 1950s, which,
Because it was right before the fact.
I just don't know if that's the period of time that you want to go back to.
No, it's just, I'm just going back to the first wave of feminism.
But you want to undo progress that's been done. So I'm curious as to what decade you'd be comfortable living in, especially as a Black woman.
Okay, so we're gonna park aside the race politics because I want to focus on.
Okay, then as a woman, what period of time do you want to go back to?
Just as a woman, I think that it was probably a better environment for women when we understood that raising our children was.
I heard the 60s were fun and the 70s. I heard life was great in the 70s. I think that's what I would pick because actually I like today, but I've heard I would have loved to have been around before social media and just see what life was like back then.
Fulfilling.
But some women still do.
But I want air conditioning, so you know what I mean?
You understand that.
Right. And
a lot of women
and I'm one of them.
And I'm here advocating for you to be able to live the life that you want and for other women to be able to live the lives they want.
Do you have children?
No.
Okay. You have a career, I presume?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you work at? What field do you work in?
I do hair.
Okay. Wonderful. So I have both children and a career, as somebody pointed out. And so the fact that I'm saying that you will be infinitely more fulfilled at the end of the day by raising your children than you will be if you come home and you say, wow, I really crushed it dying.
Right, but it's like I can watch what you say or watch what you do. I did an event with Candance. I was kind of starstruck. It's kind of weird sometimes when you see people like you've seen on screen. I did an event with her. And it was like a month after she had her kid. Like, what are you doing? Flying to Amsterdam?
Somebody's hair today. What is it exactly that makes you angry about hearing that? Like that's what I'm actually trying. I'm trying to get to the implicit revolution.
That's the thing is that no one is
someone
angry.
mentions children.
No, see, no one's angry when you mention children. I get angry, I guess, when you mention that someone should have a children or you're trying to impose a lifestyle.
What is she arguing? She's saying, I don't want to have kids with a beta. All my ex-boyfriends were beta. I don't want to do it. I don't. And Candace, because the older women will tell you this, have kids with a beta. Have kids with a beta. No, I don't want to have kids with, that's the argument going, they don't realize it, but that's the argument.
Style onto people that you want to live, which I think is kind of funny because as someone who's anti-feminism, you practice it more than most women do. I mean, every time you get on your podcast.
Pearl, would you say no-fault divorce was a symptom of a deeper cultural shift that had already started undermining men's roles, family, and society, or was it the real turning point? So I had a child support officer on the show, or I don't know his official job title. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. You guys are being super generous today. My understanding is that there was a lot of requests for no-fault divorce already, and that there was a lot of people separated and not divorced, so it was just kind of like a formality. And that matches up with what I know about like my family, like the grandparents and great-grandparents. A lot of people didn't, like they were just separated. And I really think all of this is just nature correcting itself because most men didn't get to produce historically. So now women, and then they enforced monogamy because it gets too violent if the bottom third of men are sexless. So then it gets violent. So the people in charge were like, okay, we need monogamy. And the women were like, no. The women are like, we won't be straddled down with betas. And this is what we got.
Every time you collect a check, You're practicing feminism.
Okay, that's what you think.
No, that's what it is. Because
actually,
without feminism, you wouldn't be able to exist.
Yeah, people keep saying, I hate when people say that.
But it's just the
it
truth.
just shows that you haven't done the research to even understand where the feminism
Or you don't know
came from,
history.
which was discovered. That's what I'm saying about you, because it means
There was always female anti-feminist writers, though, always.
that you don't understand that a bunch of government officials in the CIA funded the feminist movement. So for all of your hatred for the patriarchy,
I'm so confused.
and
So my question is it bad that they funded it or bad that it just happened?
Men wanted women to go into the workforce. The government, which had a lot of men, it was being.
Are you talking about because World War II occurred and we had to go to factories, and then when we left the factories, they forced us back into the homes?
That's not what I'm saying at all. So let me tell you what I'm saying, and then you can respond to it.
Go for it.
Gloria Steinem is considered to be a feminist icon, right? Because she led these protests. She also had a bunch of music festivals. She got students involved. It is just a fact that Gloria Steinem was funded by the CIA, okay? The CIA, being the male-dominated CIA of the 50s and the 60s, funded those movements. So what do you think was the explicit aim? Do you think it was because the government really wanted you to be more free, that they wanted to encourage women to enter
Well, I have to be honest with you, I couldn't speak on behalf of the government.
Okay.
You know,
The women nagged them into it in their lives. Guarantee it. Some guy's woman just nagged.
I mean, and what their intention
Well, I think it's important because you just said that I don't know history. And I think it's pretty important if you're going to sit across from me and say, I don't know history, that you learn a piece of history and then question as
you keep bringing up men. And I think it's funny because we should talk about men more. Like you brought up suicide, they're 4 times more likely to kill themselves.
which is why I don't
And while
believe-
women, we're twice as more often on antidepressants, but that's because we go out and do what we need to do to keep coping.
because we're not happy.
And we need to focus on men and the patriarchy because it's actually oppressed them just as much as women now emotionally, right? Because when we're kids, our parents teach us how to cross the street. Look both ways so you can get the other side unharmed. When a boy comes across a feeling, and I'm using men and boys here because they're the ones suffering, women are too, but emotionally. When they come across a feeling they haven't felt before, we have to teach them how to get to the other side and cope with it. Otherwise, they stay where they are. That anger and resentment builds. That's the feeling they become most comfortable with. That's the feeling they go to first in most situations.
right,
So we need to
pause.
stop telling our boys that they don't cry because they do. They just do it alone, and then they become even more alone.
You're fat.
All right. Jasmine,
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so you say that women are more fulfilled at home with kids than going out into the workforce or getting educated, but that just really doesn't bear out when you look at the stats, when you look at how working mothers are way less likely to be in poverty. Maternal education is the #1 predictor of childhood outcomes, better scores, getting higher incomes in the future, fewer behavioral problems, better mental health. So it's weird to me and college-educated women are least likely to get divorced, and they're the only women, the top 10% of women are the only women whose marriage rates are going up. So they're getting married, they're staying married, and their kids are doing better. When you look at stay-at-home mothers, you see that they're more likely to report being depressed, they're more likely to report having anxiety and anger and all these types of things. So how can you say that?
She won't speak for the government, but she will speak for men, SMH.
Seems like a woman, if you want to get married and have kids, you should go to college and have a career.
So it sounds to me like we are looking at totally different statistics because everything that you said, I've actually read the exact opposite.
I'm glad we're on.
Let's not talk about, I do studies because I have to. It's part of my job. I can't just not use studies. But let's talk about what we see in real life. What do you see? Are women unhappy? I don't see young women being unhappy. I see old women unhappy when they can't get the attention from alphas anymore. That's who I see. That's when women crash out.
On a fact check show with you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's so exciting.
That's going to be amazing. Okay. Because I know, like I said, I think what we're talking about is that there was this widespread report on
When did this girl get fat? My God.
female happiness, and I know that it was formally debunked, and it was
That's not what I'm talking about. Pew Research,
Right.
University of
Okay.
California. In fact, working mothers today spend more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending more time with their children than the people who are at work.
And their
today.
children are not faring off any better, and they're faring off worse.
How are you measuring their children faring off worse?
How likely they are to higher incomes, better scores, fewer health problems, fewer behavioral issues, and better mental.
So the just to get back to the claim that I'm making here is that it is obvious that women who have children are going to be more fulfilled.
How is
right?
that obvious? Because you said so?
No, it's not obvious because I said so. It's because when you look
Candance is getting kind of tripped up. They're kind of, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough environment having like 20 people yell at you and just take shots. The way I would have handled that is just say, look, for the purpose of this debate, I am awful. I am a bad person. Can we move on to the topics and the studies? Like that is how I would handle it. I'd say, look, I understand. I am a hypocrite. I am a bad person. I get it. You guys don't like me. Can we move on? That's what I would say. That's how I would do it.
look at all the statistics in terms of women who are choosing not to have families, they are, as the person who just sat here before you mentioned, they are suffering from more depression. They're suffering from more anxiety.
And that's not true.
Okay, it is true. It is actually true that women who are choosing their careers over starting families are finding themselves leaning more onto medicines like Xanax, anxiety-inducing medicines, and depression because they suspended that time frame where women really should be looking to find a partner and to start a family because they were instead pursuing their careers.
And why are they better off?
It is a dishonest.
Women don't like men that much. Men drive us crazy. They annoy us. It's because we hate things that we can't control. We can control children. We can control the narrative. We can control the media. We can control the workforce. We can control our income to some extent. But we can't control men. Men are uncontrollable. And that's why it drives women crazy.
It's totally a dishonest narrative that men and women want the same things out of life. We don't. We absolutely do not want the same things out of life. In fact, we don't even measure success the same. Men and women don't even measure success the same.
So,
okay?
but tell me how the women who are working and getting educated, why are they faring off better in all of these?
I am telling you that I do not believe they are faring off better in all of these measures.
Because of what?
I am telling you that we are looking at totally opposite statistics. Like, so you're sitting here telling me that the statistics show that women who are working are producing better children. But I am saying that women that grow up in a two-family home where the mother stays at home are faring off better than the children who are being raised in an environment
where the women are working?
Where both of the parents are working away from the home. I do get to work from home.
No. But
that's the irony.
I've watched your show. You talk about all the nannies you hire, and it's so hard to find.
Let's face it, our generation is in a testosterone crisis thanks to modern lifestyle, poor diet, and environmental toxins. Low testosterone can sabotage your health and vitality. Reclaim your edge and bring your levels back to where they belong so you can live stronger, healthier, and with purpose. That's where Man's Edge from Neutronics Labs comes in. The powerful formula combines 4 clinically proven ingredients: fenugreek, IGF-1, NO2, and Tongkat Ali to ignite your body's own testosterone factory. Studies show fenugreek, along with IGF-1 and other clinically backed ingredients in Man's Edge, can help boost your testosterone up by 46%. Plus, Man's Edge patented liposome delivery has up to 98% absorption, far better than your typical powders or pills. So you can actually feel the difference. Right now, you can save 50% on all orders when you auto ship and use my code PEARL. Get the edge today and don't settle for anything less. Visit getmansedge.com and reclaim your vitality today. I've heard from people in the industry she has a lot of nannies. Don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard.
I never talked about all of the nannies I hired.
Yeah, you have.
I spoke about how difficult it was to find a babysitter who knew how to cook a meal.
But so now Candance is entering into her frame. Candance should have dismissed it. What would I have said? I would have said, you talk about all the nannies you hire. Yeah, 1 million nannies, 1,000, 100,000, or you just dismiss, you move on. Like she's defending herself. And this is something I had to internally look at. Why do you feel the need to defend yourself to an OnlyFans model? Your butt is on the internet. I don't have to. That's maybe what would you put in the chat? What would you tell Candance to overcome this objection? I would either agree and amplify. So, you just say, yep, I'm the worst mother ever. I'm a terrible person. So can we just move on? Or I would go a different route and say, let me think. Let me listen to the rest.
Meal. And that's because
you don't need a babysitter. You're already, you could retire right
you have
now.
to let people respond to you when they're speaking.
You don't want to.
to
retire.
respond to you when
No,
I
you
speak.
don't want to. You want to be working, which is great.
You're telling me what I want now.
That's true. I mean, her husband's worth 180 million. She doesn't need to be doing this, but she's like choosing to put herself in politics, which will affect her career with her kids. Yeah, which is fine. I'm not saying she shouldn't. I'm saying it's not what she's selling.
And then accusing me of telling you.
Wait, you don't want to work?
Can you just let me finish? Because you've said so many words that what you're trying to do here, like your argument style, is I'm going to say so much and not let her get a word in and then walk away and feel like I've won.
Get your word in.
We're not having a conversation because you've not letting me respond to even one of your points.
Go for it.
Okay. What I am saying to you, first to answer what you just said, which was a lie, what I spoke to you about on the weekends is that it's been increasingly difficult to find a 25-year-old who even knows how to make boxed macaroni and cheese, right? And that's crazy. That is in large part due to feminism. Women don't even focus. Women don't even focus. Like there's this idea.
It's not really feminism. It's Uber Eats. That's really it.
Yeah, that women shouldn't be cooking. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with women even learning how to cook.
Are you
know what I mean?
spending as much time with your children as you possibly can? Because that's the way to get the most fulfillment.
No, and that's what I'm trying to say. I am speaking to you
So
as.
then stop.
Okay, could you please let somebody get in
I
a
did.
word
I
edgewise?
let you finish.
You're not. You
I
actually
did.
have not let anybody finish. And like I said,
have.
it's no one benefits when you're just speaking over me and not allowing me to respond. All you're proving is that you have an attitude and you.
So again, I would have dismissed it. Let's get back to the topic. And now, like, you can't by saying, oh, now she. That's why I think Jasmine actually won this, because Candance keeps entering into her frame.
Can you address the
feminism,
point now?
but you're not. See, that's what I'm saying. You just have an attitude, and it's not
Trying
cute.
to.
It's performative.
I'd love if
I'm
you
actually
address my point. I will be quiet if you address my point.
Does anybody actually feel here that I am being allowed to address any of her points when she just keeps running over me? Like I'm literally trying to answer your first point of you saying that I don't stay at home.
Yeah,
Fair
that was
point.
really weird. Yeah.
Fair point. Obviously, I get that you're all anti-Candance and pro-feminist, but also it's not productive if you're.
Oh, that's a great response. Candance should pay us for this. Thank you. $5 super chat. What she is doing for her culture war shtick is for her kids, so they won't date gynocentric nut jobs. We all know it's not, but that's a great response. Do you know what I mean?
You're not actually.
Okay, address the point. You spend more time saying that I'm not addressing, that you don't have a chance to talk. I mean, the whole time you could have addressed the point. And you could have talked.
I
So go for it.
just want you to know that you're not coming across as somebody who wants to actually have a conversation. So to get back to the claim, because I don't even know where you're at. You're now talking, you're saying that I said stuff in my podcast.
I'll go wherever you want to go.
I never said.
I'll go wherever
So do you want to
go.
start with me working at home? Because I work at home. You just said something about me working
You
at home.
travel all around the world.
Okay,
you do speeches, and I love that. I love how ambitious you are. That's a really great trait. And if you were truly said that you would be more fulfilled. Now, one thing you do find is women, they don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this and spend all your time doing that, we would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay.
She cooked. It's pretty embarrassing. That was a great response. If you had anything else that she should have added, it's tough. It's a personal attack. But that's what happens when you use your kids to build your brand. I had a public relationship once, and I regret it with everything in me. Making it public, you know what I mean? It's just, yeah, you don't want to do that. That's why I'm kind of iffy when I talk about, like, my personal life, because people just use it to weaponize it against you. And you learn this when you get into media. But yeah, if you cosplay trad and you're like putting on your Instagram stories, you cooking for your husband and stuff, yeah, that's what you get.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the.
We live under a.
All right, so we got half of it. Okay, well, let's see. We're about an hour into this video. I want to do this tomorrow, too. I'm just debating how I want to cut it. We'll do a little bit. We live under a matriarchy, not a patriarchy.
Matriarchy, not a patriarchy. Hi.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Princella, the Queen Maker.
I love that.
So you say we live in a matriarchy.
Right.
Can you give me the definition of patriarchy?
Yes. Well, the patriarchy is the idea that the system, our system in America, is being run by men, and that women are having to exist under a system that.
You know what I would say if I was Candace? The good response. I do work. I have to bring home the bacon for my husband. I got to give him king treatment. I got to treat him like a king, you know. Is Jasmine Jafar a 5? I would put her as more attractive than Candace, unfortunately. I'd put her at like a 6.5 because she's younger, a little prettier, I'd say, even though she has work.
Immediately disadvantages them because men are behind it. And I disagree with that pointedly. I think actually we're living in a society where people are being very much influenced socially and politically by women.
Okay, so the denotative definition of patriarchy is father rule, and where positions of government are held majorly by men, where women are largely excluded. So 125 House of Representatives are female, and that's only about 25%.
Right.
And only about 28%
Right, but they have to cater to women because women are the biggest swing voting bloc.
make up Senate, and 3.3% of Congress up until this date have ever been women. So by denotative definition, we literally live in a patriarchy.
Yes. So I disagree with that. So I think what this gets to, which is actually an important part of the conversation, is that people always think that where there is disparity, there's somehow inequality. And I actually reject that entirely. I think it's just a difference in what we're interested in. I think we're biologically wired. We're interested in different careers. And just because if we looked in the fashion industry and said, oh, well, it's being dominated by women, it wouldn't mean that, okay, well, that means that the fashion industry is a matriarchy and men have no sense. It just means have no ability to communicate how they feel in the fashion industry. I literally think that those numbers show that we're just biologically different. So I actually think politically, women have shown that they have a lot more power than men have. And I'm talking about just in terms of political movements. The most recent I can think of is the Me Too movement, right? If a bunch of women get together and complain about a man and refer to the patriarchy and scream, generally speaking, let me know if you agree, the media will celebrate that. If a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem and that things were really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me speak to that. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So under the denotative definition of a patriarchy, by the percentages that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, what it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't think that women are the ones voting to have their reproductive rights taken away, where you have rape, incest, and all of these things excluded to force women to be able to have. I don't think women in government would largely vote against their own interests because it's majority male, patriarchy.
Okay.
Yeah, but you have to cater to the voting bloc. That should have been her answer.
I think, love that point. Are women allowed to vote?
Oh, of course they are.
Who's voting that patriarchy and then out of curiosity?
No, I totally agree. And you want to know why? Because there are so many women who think like you. You submit to the idea of men ruling everything. And your ideology is spread across.
I think what I would say in these debates would get me kicked off of YouTube. Yeah, because they're better at everything. And you guys are nuts. I don't want a woman in charge. Not all women, not all women. Oh, I can't. Is that hard for you guys as men, just thinking these things and not being able to say it? Government and media are not separate things. Operation Mockingbird is alive and well. Thank you.
A lot of women who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end. You know, earlier you said that, women would be much more happier working at home. But don't you agree that it's human nature to want things that you don't have? So during the 1950s, which is something that you constantly bring up, it wasn't until 1994 that it was legally illegal to beat your wife. And so what we're dealing with is people wanting something, and then when they get it, they're not happy with it, and then they have to...
But women are never happy. So, like, the first mistake was ever trying to appease women, because you can give them the world and they still won't be happy.
Revoke that idea for something else. And so what you're saying is that women vote for these things because they have the same mentality as you.
Okay. So you're acknowledging that women have the freedom to vote.
Yes.
And you're saying that women are still existing mentally, even with the freedom to vote.
Correct.
They are voting men in because we are still victims of...
No, I don't believe in victimhood. I believe in lack of education and lack of knowledge, because one of the things that you also say...
Do you think that it could just be that more men are running for positions of office?
No, not necessarily. Because remember, the United States, the average reading comprehension of people...
I think it's because men are better at everything, but not all.
In the United States is 6th grade. So we're not dealing with educated people. Lack of education is the cause for what we see in the world. And if we educate the women better, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And if she reading and comprehending at a 6th grade level and popping out a lot of kids, because the brokest people in the world pop out the most kids. So if we have those people voting, of course they're going to vote against their interests, because they're voting for some utopian society that will never exist.
Okay, so that's why you think Kamala lost.
This ain't even about Kamala.
Because you're talking about women. No, but we had an opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a male running, and we had a...
Yeah, go ahead and say. They're like, Pearl, just say it. Yeah, I was unemployed for a year and a half. That was not a fun year and a half. I thank you guys every day for the super chat, but that was a tough... Do you know what it's like? I did this show basically throughout the whole time. And you guys saw me. My mood was terrible because I was working for free. Yeah, so, yeah.
Female running. And we actually showed that Trump increased the amount of women who voted for him, right? So
Because Trump's an alpha. That's why. Women love alpha men.
asking you, do you believe that the reason that happened was because women became less educated during that time?
They've always been less educated. Did you know that UNESCO says that that 2/3 of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women?
We always can't even read. Oh, that's hilarious. I feel like I can't read sometimes. You know, I'm actually, do you know what's funny about that? Oh my God, they're gonna cook me. Sometimes I'll read like words and you guys notice it. Like I just can't pronounce them. I don't know how. I've literally thought about taking a reading class. But that is hilarious. We want us to have an equal say when 2/3 of adults who can't read are women.
Illiterate. And we have 6th grade educated people voting. And guess who?
God help us.
Guess the dominant population is white women. And so guess what? Now
Hey, us too.
you have to add a race element into that, which you already know exists. Because we, as black folks, we ain't the dominant people voting people in. Okay, so now when we have to go into white supremacy and feminism, now you have to look at the mind of the people who actually have economic success and what they're voting for, because classism actually matters as well. So I'm sorry, but a lot of people vote based on their feelings and not based on policy.
Pause, guys.
Yes.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the...
She's almost more feminine than Candance in a weird way, even though she's doing the dyke thing. So she's like talking slowly, calm, cool, collected.
Majority, please return to...
Although to be fair, it's tough to be calm when you have like 10 people coming for you at once. I've been there. It's tough.
Thank you for the respectful conversation.